Hey, what's going on? It's the Beast Bailey, and I'm back with a video. This video, we're going to be talking about the Georgia Mississippi State game this Saturday night at 7 o'clock at Mississippi State's house. Can y'all believe there's only 3 games left in the season? That's insane. This season's going by so quick. And it sucks is I haven't enjoyed it. I haven't enjoyed this season a lot. Especially most of those late September, early October games, I did not enjoy them because I was constantly in group chats on Facebook, Instagram, just talking about the game and just complaining. And really the Kent State Missouri game was the main two. The Auburn game, I was also pissed about that game a little bit, how we played in the first half. But granted, we're undefeated. We have the second best resume in the country. Tennessee has the best in terms of wins. I mean, Tennessee has 3 wins over current ranked teams: Alabama, LSU, and Kentucky. Kentucky getting ranked is helping Tennessee out here. Georgia has 2. Now, Georgia has 2 wins over 2 top 6 teams. And Georgia also has 2 wins over 2 potential playoff teams. And I've been seeing it. Tennessee and Oregon could make the playoff. And if they do, and Georgia makes the playoff, then Georgia's already beat half the playoff teams already. When does that ever happen? I don't think that's ever happened. Georgia is exceeding expectations. Let's just be honest here. Georgia is exceeding expectations. Georgia was not predicted to be undefeated or whatever in the regular season. I predicted them to lose a game. It's just so hard to predict a team to go undefeated. Mississippi State is at their house, and that's really the only advantage they have is it's at their place. They got the cowbells. They're going to be ringing them. Kirby Smart, I'm sure that he has something at practice, probably playing cowbells on the loudspeakers, probably just trying to get as loud as possible in that indoor practice facility just to try to get them to work, to work in a loud environment because it's going to be loud. But at the end of the day, Georgia is just a better team than Mississippi State. Will Rogers, he did play Georgia in 2020. That was a shootout game. JT Daniels won us that game. If we did not have JT Daniels, we would have lost that game. And that game was in Athens. Georgia won that game, I think, 31-28. JT Daniels played, Stetson Bennett had already lost 2 games that year, so JT finally came in, and JT got in a shootout with Mississippi State. We won that game. And now Stetson Bennett has progressed really well since then. Stetson Bennett is not the same player that he was in 2020. So I expect this is going to be a tough game. This is going to be a tough game. You look at the other SEC road game we had at night was against Missouri, and you see what happened in that game. Georgia struggled immensely in that game. Missouri dialed up Stetson Bennett like a T, just dialed him up. They had everything. They were playing their game. Georgia's defense kept us in the game, forcing them to kick 6-7 field goals, it seemed like. But all that matters is Georgia won that game. But, you look at Will Rogers and you think, man, this offense is so explosive. This offense, they're going to throw the ball so much. How can you really stop this? Well, some teams have. Alabama has. LSU has. Think about that. Who else beat Mississippi State? They have 3 losses. Who else beat them? I don't know. I know LSU did, and maybe A&M did. I don't know. Alabama did. Alabama held them to 2 field goals, or Alabama held them to 1 touchdown. So, I mean, it's hard to say. Will Rogers has completed 300 attempts. He has completed 300 passes of 430-something attempts. Stetson Bennett has 292 attempts. Will Rogers has more completions than Stetson has attempts. Stetson's completed like 100-something attempts, 150, 160 attempts of 200-something. Stetson Bennett is only 300 yards short of being where Will Rogers is at. Will Rogers has 2,900 yards. Stetson has 2,600. And what's crazy is Will Rogers has over 100 more completions, and Stetson's only 300 yards away. So you look at it and you go, well, okay, you see, I mean, it's just like, okay, Will Rogers has a lot of yards. Stetson Bennett's real close. Stetson has over 100 less completions, and he's almost at Will Rogers' point. And if you watch Mississippi State play, they're going to run this air raid offense. They're not going to run the ball much. They're going to run the air raid. And the air raid works, but he throws so many short passes. And you go back and watch the Georgia-Tennessee game, Georgia dialed that up pretty well. That is one of the best Georgia defensive games I've watched as a fan, was that Tennessee game. Now, obviously, if that game was in Tennessee, at Tennessee, I don't know if it would have played a factor or not. I'm sure it would have been loud, but the better team won Saturday. Georgia is better than Tennessee for a fact. Georgia dominated the entire game. The score was 27-13. That game could have been 27-0. Easy. That game could have been 27-7. That really could have been the score, 27-7. That could have been the score. Georgia completely went in cruise control at the beginning of the third quarter. You watched the game, you've seen it. If you did not watch the game, you probably said, well, Georgia only scored 27. That's because they were in cruise control. Georgia was not trying to score. Georgia was trying to run the entire second half clock out and go home. Kirby Smart had a game plan. I told you he'd have a game plan. He came into this game saying, hey, let's win this game in the first half, run the second clock out, and let's go. And that's exactly what they did. That is exactly what they did. Now, for Georgia against Mississippi State, I believe Georgia's going to have no problem. Georgia is the better team. Georgia is the more physical team. Georgia has the most talent. Georgia is better than Mississippi State. The only problem is this game is at their house in the Cowbells. That's the only worry I have. Now, before the season started, I did predict Georgia to lose a game, and this was the game I predicted them to lose. And the reason I went with that was because it was an unfamiliar environment. Georgia has not played at their place since 2012 or 2011 or 10. And it's one of those 3 years was the last time they played at Mississippi State. Now, Georgia has played Mississippi State twice in recent memory. In 2017, which was one of the loudest games ever in Sanford Stadium. We beat Dan Mullen when he was still there, 31-3 it was. And then we played him in 2020 and we won 31-28. So Kirby has played Mike Leach's offense. Kirby has played against Will Rogers. So maybe they go back to that film and compare the film to this day and see if there's any similarities or differences. And, I mean, that's what you go by. Just say, hey, we've already played him once. Obviously, some of them players that were on that 2020 team are still here. A lot of them are on the DBs. Keely Ringo, Christopher Smith. Those guys were on that team that year. They were here. A lot of those guys. Now, even, like I said, some of the offense was here. Kenny McIntosh was on that team. A lot of the receivers were. But you got to go off of for Mississippi State, they have to run the ball. Nobody is going to beat Georgia unless you can run the ball, and they only average 80 yards a game. Georgia averages 195 yards a game. Mississippi State can't line up and run the ball, and they have to continuously throw the ball over and over. I don't see Mississippi State having a shot. And I just don't. Mississippi State, they're going to line up and try to throw the ball. They will. And they might try to run a couple plays, and if they can clearly tell the run game ain't going to do nothing, they're going to get away from it. They're going to start throwing the ball. That's just what they're going to do. Stetson Bennett has to play a clean game, no turnovers. He didn't have any turnovers last week, which was very critical. Georgia did have 2 fumbles. Both of them were by the running backs. But for Georgia, we just gotta keep the ball safe, man. You gotta be safe with the football. You gotta keep it safe. No turnovers. Stetson's gotta play well. For defense plays like they did last week. Georgia's winning the game. No problem. Because for Georgia, if they can just play like they did last week, man, Georgia's gonna win the game. Let's just be honest. Here. Georgia's gonna win the game. If they can play like they did last week. I do believe Mississippi State will score some points. I'll give them some points. I think this could be the game where somebody passes that 22 points mark. The most points Georgia's given up is 22. I could see them getting maybe 24 points or 27 points. My final score prediction, I'm gonna go Georgia 38, Mississippi State. I'm gonna go Georgia 38, Mississippi State 20. I think they get I think they're going to get a couple field goals. I think they're going to settle for field goals, and they might give up 1 touchdown. That's just kind of maybe 2 touchdowns and 3 field goals or something like that. I don't know. It might be like a 38-21 game. I'm thinking like that. That's kind of like the number. I don't know if Georgia will get in the 40s. I don't know if they will. They easily could, but Georgia's got to go in here. We got to completely just take the life out of this team and just play Georgia football. So that's the plan. That is the plan. So we'll see what happens. I'll probably do a playoff kind of predictor coming up. So we'll see what happens with that. But, yeah. So we'll see what the Dogs do. Hopefully they win. Hopefully they go to 10-0. We got Kentucky and Georgia Tech left. Georgia Tech, automatic W. The Kentucky game is at Kentucky, so it will be the last coup de grace. You will say coup de grace. Georgia wins this Saturday, they clinch the East regardless. So if Georgia loses to Kentucky, Georgia clinches the East. So yeah. And if LSU wins this Saturday, they will clinch the West. Yes. If LSU wins this Saturday, they clinch the West. Alabama, what are you doing? See you next year.